Hello everyone, welcome back, thank you for being back in the room. We're going to have 8 talks, and we will have, after 4 talks, a Q&A with the audience, then another 4 talks and Q&A, so really want to get you involved as always. But we're going to start with a short video, and it's going to be from the partner exploration company.
It is in our nature to explore. The fabric of our existence built on a desire to understand, to discover, to expand our boundaries, to explore the unknown, to learn from those that came before, and do better for those that come after. When we endeavour, we do it together. Our most grand of expeditions, the result of values shared and pioneering skills oft unexpectedly paired. Together, explorers don't just dream of it, we do it. And we, the engineers, designers, developers, dreamers, and doers of the exploration company, we are explorers. And together, we know no bounds. The world's first capsule privately funded, the world's first capsule fueled by green propellants. We take off from any heavy launcher in the world. So we're not racing to space, but cooperating on building a frontier. And this capsule is just the beginning. There will be new vehicles, new discoveries, new technologies, new ways to make space for everyone. At the Exploration Company, we build accessible, sustainable, and cooperative space worlds.
And we're going to start this section now, which is about commercial stations and logistics, accelerating business plans. And we're going to start this session with another video recording, actually, which is Tara Ruttley, who is the chief scientist at Blue Origin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Ruttley, Blue Origin's chief scientist for Orbital Reef. Thank you for your time today, and I send my regrets that I'm not able to be with you in person at such a great event. Today, though, I'll give you an overview and an update on Orbital Reef. That's Blue Origin's commercial space station currently under development, with our stellar team members represented here on this slide. So Blue Origin's vision is for millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of Earth. Orbital Reef is our commercial space station currently being designed to support that vision as we plan to meet the needs of the low Earth orbit community as part of the transition of the International Space Station upon its planned retirement in the year 2030. Blue Origin's SpaceX agreement with NASA supports the design of Orbital Reef as part of the first phase of NASA's commercial low Earth orbit development program. Now, as I've mentioned, Orbital Reef is Blue's commercially developed, owned, and operated space station in low Earth orbit. This kind of commercial model is unprecedented in the history of spaceflight in terms of long-term habitation, and is one of our unique challenges as we develop our plans. Our focus is to take the lessons learned from the International Space Station and keep what's worked, but improve on what hasn't. These are improvements in areas such as increased frequency of access, reduced costs to space, streamlined integration of payloads and science, and optimized on-orbit operations. These are all essential to meeting NASA's needs, as well as to maximizing the market demand for all of our future customers. And because Orbital Reef is designed to be a global endeavor, it's critical that we maximize our international collaborations in order to really build a highly successful and robust low Earth orbit economy. So we see Orbital Reef as a hub for a vibrant, emerging space economy. And that means that we're able to provide the infrastructure and the capabilities in areas that you might be familiar with because of traditional decades worth of experience in space, or areas that you might not be so familiar with or are looking forward to being familiar with. Those would be areas of familiarity such as national and international research, supporting fundamental science, providing infrastructure and access to low Earth orbit to develop different technologies that might be useful in space and on Earth, providing human research opportunities and other ideas that maybe you hadn't thought about yet, and also supporting commercial industry, normalizing the access to microgravity in a way that supports R&D efforts, considering Orbital Reef as a laboratory extension of industry's existing ground-based capabilities in ways that promote product development, providing exploration services, of course, astronaut training and testing for further exploration beyond low Earth orbit, and even things like travel, consumer productions, creating media in space, advertising, or maybe even movies, and of course, satellite production, supporting, producing, assembly, delivering, development, deployment of satellites in many different ways that are currently in ideas of the minds of folks all around the world and are waiting to make its debut with the new commercial laboratory capabilities that Orbital Reef will provide. So what you're looking at here now are two possible configurations for Orbital Reef. On the left is the baseline to support the initial needs of the ISS transition, and it's about 90% of the volume of ISS. If you look closely, you can see down that middle module, that's called the core, that Blue Origin has provided, and it's got the windows, these very large windows that are facing the Earth for Earth viewing. There's an attached life inflatable module, that round module there, provided by our Sierra Space team members. There's a research module provided by our Boeing team members in this picture, and you can also see an attached Dream Chaser, provided also by our team members of Sierra Space as our visiting vehicle. On the right, it's what we call our growth configuration, and it provides an example of how Orbital Reef can expand its modules and the infrastructure to support future increased demands of the LEO market. So if you look down the middle there on the right, you can see multiple core modules stacked together as we anticipate the demands for LEO increase. You can see a couple of life modules, you can see added research modules, and that's the intent, is to maximize the modularity and the capabilities of the Orbital Reef. So in the meantime, we've been making steady progress towards the baseline configuration there on the left, based on the input we've received from NASA and the international partners from ISS. Now in 2023, NASA provided the community its first draft requirements and standards for the CLD design and construction for industry review and feedback. Then this past summer, NASA also provided updated draft requirements for basic lab capabilities post-ISS. We've also received preliminary requirements from some of the other ISS international partners on their needs for a post-ISS LEO presence. And in the meantime, we continue to mature our designs and continue the progress on our NASA Space Act Agreement milestones. Some of those examples include that we've completed testing on our large Earth-facing windows by exposing them to the extreme environment of space on the International Space Station MISSE platform. So it was really great to get those samples back and go through analysis. We've also completed our payload interim design review this summer with NASA, and that laid out our on-orbit research capabilities and the kind of infrastructure and facilities we'll need, as well as the resource allocations to provide to support our science community. Also this past summer, our team members at Sierra Space completed a full-scale burst test of its inflatable life module at Marshall Space Flight Center. And currently, we're undergoing human-in-the-loop evaluation in our Orbital Reef mock-ups to enable us to perform assessments on work volumes, layouts, and anthropometrics that will drive our final module designs. With all of our progress on the design of Orbital Reef, our biggest challenge still remains, and that is ensuring that we hear from all customers, both in the existing LEO community as well as in the future LEO community, and from those who may have never even thought about using space before. This will allow us to optimize our design for both what we're familiar with and what we've not yet even imagined. Given the timeline to make ready Orbital Reef to support existing LEO communities in its ISS retirement plans, the challenge is on. We look forward to NASA's draft CLD Phase 2 RFP release next year for more refined requirements as we near the end of our design phase. And if we haven't yet heard from you and you have some ideas on how to use Orbital Reef, we want to hear from you, from those in government, industry, and academia. What are your needs in LEO? Please do reach out to us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much to Tara there. I'm now going to invite up to the stage 3 speakers. They will give a presentation each, and then we will have a little panel discussion, and then another 4 speakers. So first of all, I would like to invite Didier Schmitt, Future Preparation Group Leader at ESA. Also, to sit on the stage and be the second speaker of this first group, David Caponio, who is Senior Vice President of Product and Business Development at VAST, and Manlio Stefano, who is Strategic Advisor for EMEA Axiom Space. So inviting all 3 to the stage, and Didier will be our first speaker.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So if you don't mind, I will be behind you.
I will. I can put it.
Good. Yeah, so the introduction has been made. Yeah, I have been appointed as a future preparation leader. That is not a title I have chosen, but we're all preparing the future. We could all lead future preparation here anyway. We could all have the same title. Nevertheless, I would like to give you a few, I have only one slide anyway, so a few insight into the institutional view on what we talk about today on LEO and post-ISS. The previous speaker has mentioned normalizing access to LEO. I wish this could come soon, I'm not sure. Anyway, we will and I will try not to fall off the stage here. So first of all, we're still here. We're still using the ISS. Of course, the orbit has been planned, is being planned. The current target of NASA is 2030. We do have an international agreement, the IGA. We have extended it to 2028. Therefore, it would have to be extended also to 2030. So we shall see what happens here. Of course, there is this philosophy of saying on the NASA side of policy of a no gap, which means that it really depends on the readiness of the post-ISS, and then to see how we can, of course, on the NASA side and the international partner side, agree on a deorbit date. Now, the deorbit date is really the end, but you have to prepare the end of lifetime, like for humans, sorry, which means that at least 6 months, if not a year before, there will be very minimal activity on the ISS. So that we have to factor in our utilization planning. So that's quite important to mention, especially also with the commercial activities. Of course, we have to factor this in. Now, as I said, this is the institutional view. We are focusing, of course, to fly European astronauts. We have 5 new ones in the core team, and we want to fly them, all of them, by the end of the ISS. So on the ISS, at least once. So to do this, we are doing what we call barters with NASA, which means that we provide elements like the European service module, essentially, and we do this barter and, so to say, value under our contribution in exchange of astronaut flights, plus, of course, the scientific program, upload, download, crew time, and so on. Now, European service modules will not be enough, and at a certain stage, we will also engage the barters for the moon activities, which I don't talk about now, which means that we have now initiated a new activity, so the LEO cargo return service. So LEO to LEO and return. So that is something new. We have 2 companies in competition. You have seen the advert of one just before. What is important that has not trickled through yet because it's brand new. We are really now looking into the possibility before the first docking and delivery of payloads of cargo to ISS. We are now contemplating the fact that we could also have a free flyer mission before. a lot of pluses in this option. First of all, you de-risk going to space and back without the complexity of being docking with the space station, which is quite, of course, quite a challenge. And we can also, so to say, de-risk the science, which means that if this happens during, let's say, about 2028, then we have already a lot of capacity, 4 tons of payloads on this cargo element to do science, so on a free flyer, which will maintain and continue to maintain the science community. And of course, a lot of possibilities for commercial use. This is really essential. So for me, this is a win-win-win situation. So we hope that we will have our member states agree to this option here that we will be discussing in the next weeks and months, hopefully not years. But we're always slow institutionally, but for this one, I think we have to be on a fast track. Now, what we also need from the member states, and you know we have the ministerial conference end of next year. We're really now in the hot phase, so to say, of preparing it. We need long-term commitment from the member states for these type of initiatives. Otherwise, you know, the fundraising of these companies, where we will, of course, base our use of these activities on a commercial basis, they have to have a long-term commitment beyond a ministerial conference, which will, of course, decide of the program between 25 and 28. So enough of this. Now, of course, what we want to do with the post-ISS, the CLDs, eventually other options we're looking into, is a full utilization from the science point of view, institutional point of view, but also pushing the commercial side. So we are committed to continue doing this. One thing which is important to you to understand, we have also done a little revolution on the science side. We have divided the science program in 2 elements. One is still what we call, so to say, the exploration-enabled science. That's more the fundamental research. That's the typical research. We do announcements of opportunity, we select, we implement. The other part, maybe it's a kind of 50-50 at the end, is what we call focus science. What is focus science? That is, we as an agency, as an institution, with our member states, we have some questions to be answered, for example, for deep space sustainability, deep space habitation. And therefore, we will ask these questions to the community, and we will finance at least part, if not all, sometimes, of these activities to have the data that we need to continue the deep space orientation of the program. Missions to Moon and Mars, obviously. I will be talking about this in separate sessions this afternoon as well. So that is very, very important for you as well, because that could also be a commercial approach on a service-based approach to get data from the scientific community, either private or public. So we will get back to this in refining the program proposal for the ministerial conference to see how we finance this activity, but I can tell you for sure the member states have all agreed and endorsed this initiative. What else? Yeah, maybe this is a good final element here. Deep space habitation, that's, so to say, what I have just said about the post-ISS activities. On an institutional side, we want to promote R&D activities to prepare for deep space habitation. We will issue, before end of the year, an invitation to tender for industry to see what this habitation ground-based simulator could look like. It is a whole system view that we want to study. And of course, there are a number of subsystems. It's a system of system, life support, medical support, but also the whole system viability of a spacecraft that needs to be completely independent, so to say, to go to Mars and back. You can imagine it's not just the humans on board, it's all the subsystems, the AI-driven issues, and so on. So we want to simulate this and the sooner the better. That's why we will be starting this pretty soon. So issuing the ITT and starting this activity in the first quarter of next year. I am very confident that this will be ramping up quite significantly, because access to ground-based facilities like this one is a major element to attract newcomers, to attract non-space industry to test and test and test, and then only do the nice thing, the icing on the cake up there in LEO and post-LEO activities. I think I covered most of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Didier. And of course, there will be questions in just a few moments as well. But next, we have David.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Some of you may have heard of VAST. We're a relatively new company. I want to make sure the slide's up there. Oh, I have the clicker, yes.
Maybe point that way.
Okay.
I'm not sure which way to point. Oh, it's coming, apparently. I'm
okay.
told in my ear. The presentation is coming, so you can just regale us with VAST.
Sounds good. We're a relatively new company formed in 2021 with the goal specifically of building the world's first commercial space station. We were founded by a single founder-funder named Jed McCaleb, who has a vision to make that happen. In order to do that, we kind of take a look at the market. And the market wants to replace the International Space Station. NASA's program, the Commercial LEO Destination Program, is entering its phase 2 approach, and we plan to bid on that and be the successor to the ISS. So how does that happen? Unfortunately, we were a young company in 2021 when phase 1 was selected, so we were unable to bid and be a part of that partnership. But instead, we've decided to build in space first, and that is with Haven 1. Haven 1 plans to be the world's first commercially developed and operated space station in history, and we plan to launch that by the end of Haven 1. So how do we do that? Haven 1 is as simple as it can get to support a crew of 4 on a single module space station launched by an existing launch architecture, Falcon 9, that exists today. And do that on a limited basis where we can plan 4 two-week missions to crew the space station for a period of 2 weeks. So how do we do that? Haven 1 is as big as it can get within the Falcon 9 fairing, ends up being about 45 meters cubed. It has enough sleeping quarters for the 4 astronauts. It has life support systems. It has a 1.1 meter window for viewing of the Earth. It has nice aesthetic amenities that we've announced last in ISE, the design of the space station. It also has a large communal working and dining space, very much unlike the ISS, where everything is kind of squared off. We actually use the full diameter of the space station to work with. We added some Starlink, laser link for large connectivity for data. But the most important thing, and we wanted to highlight, is the introduction of the Haven 1 laboratory. So this video right now, hopefully it plays, is our progress to date. I could show you renders and videos and PowerPoint slides, but really the proof is in the hardware. We've grown rapidly. From January of just January of this year, we were at 300 employees. Now we're close to 700 employees. We have 16,000 square meters of production facility in Southern California, where we are building the space station today. And even this update, you probably saw October 2024, we're 2 months later, it's already out of date. We're going that fast. Haven 1 took an approach with the industry about what is available, can we buy it off the marketplace, and if we can't, we will develop it in-house. So we found some partnerships on the propulsion side, on the power generation side, actually with DHV here in Spain and Europe. But everything else that wasn't available on our timeline, we had to develop in-house. So we've done that on a balanced vertical integration approach to develop the vehicle in a timely manner. Additionally, we're launching a small spacecraft. We've put as much as the avionics and systems that we can in the vehicle, operated in space, and deorbit safely. So it's much risk reduction and TRL raising that we can possibly do before we fly a commercially crewed space station. We've also developed a space sleeping system with the support of our astronaut advisors that actually gives you the simulation of 1G, as sleep in space is kind of a precarious activity. Additionally, we've announced the interior renders, the kind of long corridor, the wind dome, and all of the laboratory working space that we have in the vehicle. Certainly, we invite all of you to come if you're in the Southern California to see being built. It's really, truly a sight to be seen. Additionally, we're stepping into the qualification program. We just announced about a week ago the two halves of the pressure section coming together in its final weld. We have a test facility in Mojave, California, just up north from us, where we'll test the vehicle in its flight environments and ready it for flight. And then most importantly, the overview effect. Having 4 astronauts from a commercial basis, both from agencies around the globe and private individuals, enjoy the view from space. So we get asked a lot, what are you building the space station for? And when you look at the requirements of a space station, there's really nothing that precludes a private individual and an agency astronaut working together in space. So we are building this Haven 1 space station for both. And we hope that vision of, we'll talk about our CLD bid, includes that just the same. So there are interest from both kind of market areas in terms of working in space, and every single private individual that we've talked to about going to space wants to do real work in space, wants to do real research, wants to be part of that space technology tree, pushing us forward. Not only space for space and space for exploration, but also space for Earth. What can we do in space that only the microgravity environment can enable, and how can it benefit us all back down on Earth? So we've developed the station to be a part of both of those stories. Then most importantly, the agencies around the world, both in the future, hopefully with NASA, but also European community and those in the Middle East and East as well. We want to develop a science platform from day one. So that's why we developed Haven 1 with a laboratory very much similar to the ISS. We use the same mid-deck locker equivalent standard, the same way that we fly 30-kilogram, 100-watt box on a express rack, as we call it in the ISS, and the same thing goes with the Haven 1 laboratory. So we've announced 2 partnerships so far, one in the US with Redwire and one in Europe with Yuri, to bring the actual research that they are doing on the ISS, some that can't wait, some of the waiting time to get on the ISS is quite lengthy, but do it quickly and also do it in a purely commercial manner. This is the first time when a commercial LEO economy can really start. The folks really haven't thought about business plans, about how to make money in space on the ISS, because it's kind of highly subsidized, and also there's some commercial restrictions that the agencies impose. On a commercial space station, you don't have those limitations. So they can actually make money in space. They can actually do research that's kind of a bit unrestricted in terms of IP and what profit margin they can have. So they're really starting to build the business plans today, and it's very exciting to see that happen. We also have 6 more mid-deck lockers that we have. We're about to announce partnerships with more partnerships around the globe, as well as having the 4 mid-deck lockers kind of reserved for the astronaut corps themselves. But we're not doing this alone. As a young company, we have a lot of experience. A lot of us come from notable space companies in the US and those that have done kind of human spaceflight. But we also want to do it in conjunction with NASA and eventually ESA as well. So about 1.5 years ago, we were selected on the Collaboration for Commercial Space Capability. It's an unfunded Space Act agreement, but allows NASA to be working with us from day one. That we have access to all the ISS data. We have NASA in the room for every one of our important milestones of test and operations. And we want to develop that relationship eventually for CLD Phase 2, which we hope to bid for next year. Another key element too, NASA has opened the door to the ISS to companies to gain experience to fly astronauts through the private astronaut missions. So we intend to bid on the next one that we hope to see in the next few weeks. And then eventually, as kind of limited on time, we announced a few months ago what the CLD replacement, the ISS replacement station, and what the CLD architecture that we plan to bid and build, and that what we call Haven 2. We called that on purpose because it takes the heritage of Haven 1 that we hope to develop and operate in space, and then upgrade that for a capable space station that eclipses the ISS, meets NASA requirements, meets ESA requirements, and meets the entire globe's requirements, both commercially and sovereign. So with that, we built an incremental architecture, crewed on the first module, launched in 2028, then upgraded through 2032 to ensure in an iterative approach what requirements need on day one, we can incorporate those, and then what requirements can we wait a little bit longer, and then incorporate that with the final space station. It's also scalable. If there's requirement needs that are greater than what was in the original bid, we can add and subtract just the same. Nothing really depends on a particular vehicle. It's completely scalable. So we wanted to make sure that that's kind of clear. We also want to make sure the important part for both NASA and ESA and agencies around the world is a continued LEO presence upon the requirement of the ISS. That's why Haven 2 is going to be so effective at being that iterative launch approach, both in 2028 to ensure there is no gap and ensure that we have a training ground, a laboratory facility waiting, and actually developed and operating in parallel as the ISS retired. Thank you very much.
Very much. And as the slide says, we now have Manlio.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. This stage is wonderful. The presence here is awesome. And I'm sure you're pretty familiar with Axiom Space, simply because we have already marked some historical moment in the space industry. So far, even though we are very young at the end of the day, in this industry, everybody is very young, because the switch between public and private sector is a recent event. So I'm Manlio Stefano. After running 3 governments in Italy as Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, I moved to private sector just because I was inspired by the founders of this company, Cam Gaffrian, a very famous US entrepreneur, and Mike Suffredini, 30 years program manager of the ISS. They decided to fund this company with the idea of building for beyond. With building for beyond, we meant to build something that will facilitate people's life on Earth, exploiting the capabilities that we have in space. So I gotta still learn how this works. Okay, here we are. All of you are familiar with this marvelous engineering laboratory, the ISS. And as all the better things in life, it will come to an end very soon, unfortunately, or fortunately for the market. And so while the ISS approaches its retirement, we are building the successor of the ISS. We are doing it in 3 different phases. Phase 1 is where we operate private astronaut missions to the ISS. This is done thanks to 4 missions that we have already got from NASA. I will talk about it later on. While we expand access to LEO through these missions, we are building the station connecting to the ISS. And at the end, we will detach from the ISS and fly as a free-flying station in LEO orbit. So from these slides, you will easily understand what makes Axiom Space unique in this industry. 2 things. 1, we won a competitive bid to have the right to attach to the ISS, and this will create a momentum where you don't have any gap in our presence in LEO orbit, because we will expand the ISS lifetime and then shift to the commercial space with the continuity of operational. That's why our big partners are both NASA and ESA, because we are somehow protecting the human presence in space. And the other thing, very important and unique, is that we have already operated 3 missions to the ISS with 11 countries, and we are going to operate the next mission next year. So this is the crew of the first mission. This marked an historical moment, as I was mentioning before, because it's the first all-private mission on the ISS. The commander, Michael Lopez Alegria, is an Axiom Space commander, but the three smiling people beside him are private astronauts, fly to the ISS, and I want to be very clear on that. Flying to the ISS means that you become an astronaut in the mean that you are performing science and research your entire day. And that's what makes the difference, because we are creating somehow a new kind of access to space. So these are the highlights of the mission. The first astronaut crew, 17 days on the ISS. The most important things on this slide are 25 payloads, 100 plus hours of research, and 30 STEM outreach events. All of us Europeans, I'm from Rome, I'm from Italy, and I live in Rome. All of us know how important it is to encourage STEM studies, because we are really having a big trouble on that, on having the right people working on the right sectors right now. The second missions marked another very important historical moment. The first Saudi astronaut to the ISS. She's a biomedic, and she performed very important research on cancer. And Peggy Whitson is the Axiom Space commander. These are the data coming from that mission. And as you will see, DNA, nanotherapeutics, and stem cell research was the main topic of that mission. And I like to highlight this topic because, it's really an extension of what the ISS can do, and we will do on our own station, we will detach. The third mission marked another very significant moment in our story, because this mission flown the first ESA reserve astronaut. So we did it through an agreement with ESA. We have a comprehensive agreement with ESA, and the next mission coming in next year will fly another ESA astronaut. It's going to be India, Hungary, and this one also is incredible because we have Turkey, Sweden, and Italy on the same mission. So countries that have never flown sometimes are really having access to space in a, let me say, easy way. So the most important part will be when we'll be detach our station from the ISS. Obviously, it has to be very soon because of the time life of the ISS. And we will, the station that you will see in this configuration is able to give the same capability of the ISS, 100%, same size approximately, bigger volume because of the new technologies obviously on board. And the module of the station are under construction in Thales Salenia in Turin. So this is the real hardware that you are looking at. I mean, obviously this picture is months ago, so now it's even better. And we will be ready to fly very soon. And I'm sure you have seen at the IEC in Milan the incredible presentation we had for the XMU spacesuit. So the next human being setting a step on the moon will wear this suit. So this is a kind of service. We got this contract by NASA, but this suit will be available for the space industry in general. So we will provide this suit for the community. And we are very proud of this incredible piece of technology that we created, because this will really give the astronauts the best of the solutions for protecting their life on this incredible journey we are going to take in the future to the moon and maybe even to Mars. And it's also obviously ready for the extravehicular activities. And it's a partnership between Axiom Space and Prada. I know you are used to Prada for very fashion things, but they are incredibly skilled in engineering for texture and very specific products like this. This is the three pillars that we are working on as of now. So the mission to the ISS, the building of the station, and the extravehicular activity suite. Obviously, we are doing so by a huge network of partnerships. I want to be very clear on that. We are very proud to be American. We are even more proud to be international. Our network of procurement is everywhere in the world. As you've seen, the modules are built in Italy since a few years now, and the procurement network is coming from everywhere because we think that in the commercial space, you have to buy the best product from the best producer wherever they are, because it's still a small community, but very skilled. So that's what we are doing. I'm here for all of your questions in the next part of the session. And I forgot to introduce myself. I am a senior strategic advisor for the company, so I help the international strategy, and I'm the director for all the business of the company in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So you can reach out to me every time, and I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Manlio, and I'm going to invite the next speakers up on stage as well for the questions now. So welcoming first Manfred Jaumann, who is head of LEO and suborbital programs at Airbus Defence and Space. We've also got Pierre Faucoup, who is the chief government officer at the exploration company. Annamaria Piras, who is head of LEO MPCV programs at Thales Alenia Space. And Rick Mastracchio, who is Director of Business Development at Northrop Grumman. So I've seen one question open on Mentimeter, but we've got a few moments now. We've got 15 minutes for Q&A now. You can ask any of the speakers who have spoken or some of the speakers who will speak in just a few moments. So any questions from the floor? Yep, we have a question over here. Sorry, I can't remember your name from last time, but I remember you asked a question last time. And just keep your hands up so that the microphones can get to you.
Thank you. Simon Evans, Blue Abyss. So this is a question primarily for Axiom and VAS, so David and Manlio. So Axiom has got customers flying now. It's small numbers, but the numbers will grow. VAST will have numbers of clients being flown into space, and those numbers will go from tens to hundreds to thousands, all being well. Your customers are coming from all around the world. Where and how are you going to train them and prepare them?
Yeah, okay, it works. Okay. So we are operating those missions as of now to the ISS with a partnership with NASA and ESA and JAXA. So the astronauts we are flying are doing the same training as the standard, let me call it like this, astronauts. So they are trained in Houston, in Europe, and in Japan as of now. And obviously, in the future, this may change with the commercial station. We are having some partnership already with customers, or in general with countries that wants to explore the possibility of having training facilities also. So this may change in the future, but my guess is that until the decommissioning of the ISS, the situation would be the usual one.
And then for VAST, it's exactly the same story on the ISS. If we were chosen to be a prime mission provider, we would train just the same. So in here for the Columbus module, for a Kiba module in Japan, in Houston for all the ISS activities, and then in SpaceX Hawthorne, California for all the Dragon activities. The only difference is we have another pathway with Haven 1, and the only difference is the destination. So everything remains the same on the logistics, the transportation, training with SpaceX, so you have the luxury of about being only 25 minutes down the road. And then for the destination, it would be all done in Long Beach, California, and our trainer for Haven 1, and a complete training program along that. There's also some space acclimation activities that we do both for the ISS and for Haven 1. That's no different. Those are done at other regions, other places around the US mostly. We can look at other international locations as well. Then it also depends on who is actually going. If there was a European astronaut or a European member state astronaut, and they had a training requirement or a training complement in Europe, we would accommodate that just as well. Especially when we have some payload providers, both in Europe, in the US, and around the globe, they may want to train the crew to use the payload equipment in their facility. We would accommodate that just the same. So it's very similar, but very much a global approach for the training as well.
Thank you, Simon. You have another comment, I think. No. Okay. Any other questions from the floor? Please keep your hands up so that the hosts know where to bring the microphones. Whilst you're thinking, otherwise I might try to pick out some people in the room. I know some names. I have a question that has been sent on Mentimeter. And of course, you can send your questions anonymously, if you wish, through Mentimeter as well. If you don't want to put a face and a voice to the question, you can ask anything you like, almost, through Mentimeter. So following on from that question, really, Axiom Station, Starlab, Orbital Reef and VAST, do you think there is a market demand to sustain each company business plan? If this is not the case, what about thinking about a collaborative, cooperative strategy?
So NASA's indicated 2 awardees is their intention. That is also budget permitting, and that's also the success of both those, because they see the lessons of both the cargo contract with CRS, the lessons with the crew contract that they have with Boeing and SpaceX, and they know from kind of the past history that 2 providers is the best solution, and that's from the NASA perspective. Europe probably wants to see that as well. They're kind of following US's lead in terms of who is going to be the chosen provider for CLD. I think I'll speak for most of us. I think we're not going to have more commercial space stations beyond the selectees for the CLD program. That's why it's so important for each of us to be selected as the Phase 2 awardee.
This question, if I may add something, this question is very important. And that's why we don't like the concept of just being the first. You know, you can be the first, but be also lonely and not having any market, you know? So the point now is to create enterprise value. So how do we create the business model? How do we create enterprise value? How do we make our partners be happy of flying experiments with you and having a results that can be used by the industry on Earth to develop their own products? So I think we demonstrate already that there is interest, because we've flown already 11 countries. So it means that they have interest on being present in space, and most of this interest is coming from you know, the new big markets. So could be Asia, could be Middle East, but in general, those countries have been left over by the ISS historical development. So now they are eager to be part of this big community and to do their own science in space. But this will probably be not enough. So obviously, what has been just said is very important. NASA will be the big client for every one of us. And this will change a little bit the market for sure. But I think that there could be room for more than one. I don't think there could be room for more than 2, but this will be another story. I mean, we have time to define this. The most important thing is that we need to have certainty by NASA. I mean, we have to be sure that this time of decision is coming soon. Because, you know, this is not an easy market, this is not an easy industry, it's very expensive, it's very cutting edge, so we need to be ensured that our investments are set properly and will bring revenue in the future, to be very transparent.
If I could add one thing too, not only is it the funding source from NASA, ESA, JAXA, other space agencies, but really it's the validation. If we weren't chosen as the CLD provider, that would indicate, even if there was commercial demand for a 3rd station, to not be validated by an important space agency, it would really affect the business plan. So I want to make that sure that's important, not just on the funding perspective, but really on the technical validation of your architecture and your system.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? Yes, we have a hand up here.
Yes, hi. Guillaume Mahara from ArcSpace. This is a question for all the panelists. These presentations showed the business plan for commercial platforms, and you mentioned many use cases. What is your vision, maybe with market validation, of what the ratio of each of those activities, astronaut training, is it satellite manufacturing testing, is it life sciences? Could you speak to that a little bit?
I think Manfred.
So for Starlab, we have a clear priority number 1. The priority number 1 is the seamless continuation of the science and research of the existing networks on ground around the world. These are huge networks with a lot of scientists, a lot of researchers, not only in the academia, but also in industry. And they have to have a space laboratory or several space laboratories. And this has to be continued. This is on the utmost priority also of NASA, ESA, JAXA, all the space agencies. So this is priority number 1. At the same time, in parallel, we are developing the so-called industrial sector. But we have to be realistic. This is market development. This lasts years. There will be some quick runners, yes, of course. But to create this new market, this takes years. We are really super active in that. All above with pharma industry, with semiconductor industry. We are creating or using existing science parks. I will come back in my presentation to that. This is in parallel to that. And the third sector that you mentioned is then to go for manufacturing space. This is a little bit more far away, but we already do something like that on the ISS, together also with ESA. We do 3D metal printing. We have an external platform there, the Bartolomeo platform, on the European Columbus module. We will do on Starlab a rebuild, because it has not to be too expensive. And we will use that for bringing it to a product level. We are far away from a product level. This is technology currently. So these are the three sectors. Priority number 1, science and research. Number 2, industrial applications. And the third one then going stepwise to manufacturing of the space in orbit. Maybe, but last but not least, it's going far beyond that what we are doing in such LEO stations. It is not to build a LEO station, it is to create an ecosystem. And this ecosystem is around the Earth, low Earth orbit, and also Moon in the first step. And this ecosystem has to be developed, and so we are working together also with US partners, all above SpaceX now, to create products and infrastructure to survive on the surface of the Moon. And this has to be tested again backwards on LEO stations, because you have super access to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Manfred. Pierre, did you want to comment? It will come on, I think. It won't. Just borrow one next to you.
Just we share this view, and with this case we call the Space Lab and Space Demo are this coverage of this use case, and we consider that really that will be the growth of LEO economy, and which make a mix on needs to be covered in the stations, but also could be covered by free flying missions, as also explained by Didier, and of course with a continuation with the Moon in the future, with in-orbit manufacturing and things like that. So we really share your view on this evolution of the market and the LEO market.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? Yes, right here.
Does it work? Yeah. Hello, I'm Bernard Freund, ex-ESA, so I was leading the first mission to the Moon, and I put a number of payloads on the International Space Station. Now I left ESA for other ventures, which is to develop a village on the Moon, but also research payload. And so I have a question on this. And actually, this morning, we just delivered a payload for the exploration company that they are going to launch for the next capsule. And this was done in a very fast time scale and at a quite competitive price, I would say. So my question for you, for research, academia or industrial research, what are the typical timescales, cost? Because I had also experiment on space station, but we had to wait 10 years to put it on. So, and also process where we could deliver the top research, academic and industrial. So what, for the facilities you have described, what is really the process, cost and time scale for putting payload on your facility?
Is there anybody in particular you would like?
Well, I see. Who has the best offer?
We have 1 minute. We have, okay, so who's going to take him up on this?
I'll take it first. So yes, we have a laboratory. We intend to start operation of that probably with humans in the beginning part of 2026. We foresee really it's not well. This is the first time that they're flying to a space station that's not well funded from the get-go. But the payload community hasn't been really that cost conscious. It's really the reaction time. It's really the turnaround time, and that's actually been the limitation of why we haven't gotten out of our space bubble as well as we should. So getting into industries that have quicker takt times, like pharmaceuticals, they can't operate on a normal space 24-month cycle. They need to operate on a 6-month cycle. So we're working with our payload providers right now to have everything retired, a lot of the non-reoccurring engineering retired, and then have that quick reaction experimental turnaround time where they can launch, maybe choose the experiment within about 12 to 6 months, operate in space, come back down within maybe 6 months. So have an overall, from ideation to produce product on the ground within hopefully a year's time.
Thank you. Very quickly, Manfred, because in fact you're the next speaker.
Maybe.
It's coming out of your time. Go ahead.
Yeah, very short. In terms of cost, if you look at the ISS and the experiences we have there, we are doing since the beginning of ISS operations utilization to the European sector there with ESA and the national space agencies, the facilities are very complex. They are very, very super complex. I take one rack. This has the capacity of a complete institute of a university. So this is really, really hard to develop. And a lot of thousands of requirements and blah, blah, blah. And this is cost. So we will never do that again. It has to be much more simple. And the way to do it has to be accelerated. So it's industry-driven, and the customers, also the agencies, they buy services. Of course, safety is untouchable, it's clear. But the way we are doing that has to be changed significantly.
Well, Manfred, you've given yourself the perfect introduction. It's your time to give us your presentation.
And for the first slide, and
I
the
think
second...
the clicker might be behind Pierre. It's here.
Yeah.
We found it. It's here.
Yeah.
And point in front.
Yeah. I step aside, and this has a certain reason. So thank you to have the opportunity to present Starlab here in this forum at this event. What I will try at least to do is to a little bit more emphasize also the European part of that, not only the US part, since I'm representing the European shareholder of Starlab. So Starlab, our new home in space, this is, as all the others, also part of the commercial LEO destination, which is driven by the US. And as you can see on my first chart here is this pyramid, where we from the beginning on did something that from the principle is a very international approach. You can see on the right-hand side of this pyramid the US part, and on the left-hand side the other parts. We are on the industrial level, this is the bottom line, bottom part of this pyramid, we have the industrial partners, the founding partners of this joint venture of Starlab, were Voyager Space and Airbus. And meanwhile, they joined also the Japanese colleagues from the ISS, Mitsubishi Corporation with MHI behind them, and also MDA from Canada for the robotic elements. On the middle part of this pyramid, you have the agencies as the first anchor customers of Starlab that I mentioned beforehand, priority number 1, continuation of science and research. And so we have on board also ESA, you can see on the left-hand side, because of Europe, there we signed in Sevilla at the Space Summit an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding between Starlab and ESA. and supported heavily by the national space agencies in Europe. And then you have JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, and the CSA. And on the government side, which is very important because of the geopolitical situation we have in the world, that we have the political backbone and to build this new LEO infrastructure, maybe with 1 or 2 or whatever stations we will have there. So looking a little bit on the station itself, the station itself is consisting of 1 module only. Why? Because we strictly reject doing assembly in space. Someone in the audience said, what about cost? No assembly in space. This is super expensive. No assembly in space, not using astronauts, crew members going outside the station, doing extravehicular activities, super expensive, super dangerous, and super expensive all above all, also because the whole operations of the station and on ground have to be stopped during an EVA. So this is super expensive. I give you 1 example. A lot of you will know that, but maybe not all. So a question to the audience. Do you know the hourly rate of an astronaut on the ISS? The hourly rate of an astronaut on ISS? Yes, it's 135,000 euro, dollar, whatever. So this has to be brought down. It's not acceptable, and we will avoid that wherever we can. We cannot go to 0, but we will avoid that. So we have 1 module, everything is in it, and this is one of the reasons of the big diameter. We have a lot of things that are assembled at the ISS outside are inside the shell. And so we will also have no racks. They are attached to the wall from the inside to the shell. There is a certain distance so that we have access to the shell from inside. All these things are in the design to avoid EVAs and to be cost effective. Second thing is we will not go for building the station on ground into a clean room. It's not necessary to do that because if you go to a clean room and you put it in space and then the first crew member is entering, it's poisoned. So we don't do that. We go to a shipyard. We are building a spaceship, and so we're building it in a shipyard. I have a nice photo in my presentation here later on. And this is completely sufficient. And we do not low-weight aluminum structures, super expensive, super complex to be built. It is stainless steel. And it is not 0.5 centimeters, it's 1.5 to 2 centimeters thick. So that means it is heavy. It's very heavy. And with 8 meter diameter and with, let's say, 60, 70 tons, you cannot launch it currently. But there will be a ship, and we are under contract with SpaceX. We will launch this thing, this baby, with Starship, with a single launch to orbit. I mentioned no assembly in space. So we assemble and integrate the complete station on ground. We test it, then we put it into the launcher, and there's a single launch to orbit with a capacity of maybe 100 tons. So this is one of the main principles of that, going to a shipyard. The manufacturing time will be shrink by 50% from 6 to 3 years. We do a single launch to orbit. The original concept for Starlab, at least, was to use 3 Atlas V launchers with the same price as a former Ariane 5 launcher in the range of 150 million euro each. This is 500 million, roughly, and we are under contract with SpaceX with below 100 million. This decreases the launch cost by more than 80%. And then, if you have no assembly in space, you have tested everything, then we go for in-orbit commissioning, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then we have a lifetime and operations cycle of 30 years with earning money. It's commercial. We cannot afford that we do complex assemblies in orbit and not earning money. So I think I got everything. Yeah, the last thing is same as the others, or some others, we will have the same capacity as we have on the ISS. So here you can see that we're not only doing a station, but we have this joint venture, an international joint venture with international partners, with Airbus, with all the others, and all above. And we welcome very much our last risk-sharing partner, Palantir, we will reshuffle and redesign not only the technical system, but the complete company to artificial intelligence, stepwise. We have to be careful, but we will do that very consequently. And this is the single launch to orbit, as you can see, with a timeline. We intend to launch in 2029. We are completely on track currently. And I go here, we are completely on track. And we will have the PDR, the system PDR, by next week. By next week in Houston. We are well on track also for that. In fact, we are one month ahead the schedule and very confident to reach the CDR, the critical design review, by end of next year. And then we build the station and launch it in 2029. Going back here to this one, very important also for Europe, especially also for Europe, is the ground segment. Here you see not only the flight segment, the station itself, but you see the visiting vehicles, the communication systems, and the ground segment. And the ground segment is very important for the regions. So in Europe, we will announce next week in Switzerland a part of the European Starlab ground segment. You will read it in the press. We do it with the Swiss authorities together and also private investors. And this will be announced on the 9th of December. Cannot say more. The same we do in Cologne. We prepare the Cologne area around the airport with DLR, ESA, and German Bundeswehr, German Armed Forces, also as part of a ground segment. Same as in Japan. This is then facilitated by Mitsubishi. Only to name 3 examples there. And this is important for Europe because we then participate in the 30 years to earn money. Here you can see the shipyard. This is the Neptune shipyard in Rostock. It is on the northern coastline, Eastern Sea in Germany, where we already started now to build the habitat. Here you can see the system, the preliminary design review for the habitat, not for the whole station, but for the habitat. This was done in the hangar where the station will be manufactured together with NASA, with Starlab, with Airbus, and all the other partners. So far from my side, thank you.
Thank you so much. And next up we have Pierre Faucoup, who is the Chief Government Officer at the Exploration Company.
So good morning to everybody. I'm very pleased to be with you today to present how we are on our development for the cargo, which is called Next, and which, in the case of to offer cargo capacities to the space stations. So first, few words on the Exploration Company, even if we begin to be known now. We have been created 3 years ago. We have been created with a motivation that we can do only big things in Europe if we are European. That's why we have decided to be based in several countries in Europe. So today we are based in France, in Germany, and in Italy. And we have also opened a subsidiary in the US, because of course US market is really important for exploration. So at the end of last year. We are now more than 200 people shared between these locations. And we have raised more than 215 million euros of private fundings, and we have achieved a few weeks ago most important Series B for a space tech in Europe, with 150 million euros of venture capital raised for this Series B. And we develop a cargo which is called Nix. We have decided to, before jumping to the final product, to a full capacity product, to provide two demonstrators. The first one is Bikini. You can see that we have realized this demonstrator in 9 months, which is really challenging. So you can see the different steps of this demonstrator between the first drawings to a final assembly and test in September 2022. After that, we wait for a launcher and we fly aboard Ariane 6. So you can see a preparation of the Bikini before to be mounted on the launcher. And we fly on the maiden flight, Ariane 6 maiden flight last July. Unfortunately, I'm going to go back. Unfortunately, the bikini was not separated by launcher, but so it's still on board Ariane 6. But we are very successful to demonstrate that we are able to be on board Ariane 6 in a very short time, to validate the different processes, to validate the different things we have to demonstrate to be on board, and of course to be compliant with our requirements. The next step is called Mission Possible. It's a second demonstrator. It's a bigger one because it's half the size of a final product. Mission Possible has been, we launched the development in July 2022. We have passed this summer all the qualification tests and the environmental tests in the Airbus facilities in Toulouse. So all the integration tests are achieved, and now we are integrated our customer payloads. Thank you for your own payload. So we offer to our customers 300 kilograms of payloads on board this vehicle. And we will fly normally mid of next year on board Falcon 9. A particularity is that we will recover our capsule, and in the future, of course, we'll reuse it. For this first time, we don't reuse it, but we will recover to demonstrate our ability to make a free-flying mission, because as I said before, we consider that there's a need for either cargo docked to stations, but also free-flying missions in complementary. Of course, the next, so you can see this Mission Possible capsule during the tests. Of course, the next steps is NIXERS. So NIXERS is the first cargo mission. We'll perform in the first mission will be for the ESA in the frame of the LCRS contract, so LEO Cargo Return Service contract. As mentioned by Didier, we have won one of the two contracts a few months ago. And we are confident in the fact that there will be the phase 2 fundings, which will be confirmed during the next ministerial conference. So as you can see on this slide, we have already achieved important milestones. We have made, of course, the system requirement reviews at the end of last year. We have performed the outfiring of green thrusters. Our preliminary design review has been passed this summer, and we are closing now the ongoing actions. And we also performed, which is a very important part of the project, the phase 0 safety review, because as you know, we need to have the docking system labelized by NASA to be sure that we are compliant with all the requirements, to be sure that the cargo could be docked safely to the space stations, where of course we have human on board. And you can see on the slide that there's different safety review, which will be performed with NASA and with the support of ESA, of course, to be sure that we will fly safely and dock safely to the station. So you see the different milestones, and we will plan our maiden flight in June 2028, so which is fully compatible with the needs of ESA and which is consistent with what we have proposed in our proposal. So as you can see, there's a lot of things to do. We are mainly focused to deliver this product and to deliver NIX at this time scale. And we are, you can see the future NIX in space. And I also would like to thank all our customers who are, all our clients who are on the stage and who have already give our confidence to the exploration company by signing contracts with us. We have signed more than 800 million euros contracts with these customers and also with our own agencies, ESA and national agencies, to support our R&D and to support our development. So thanks for Axiom Space, for ESA, who is our anchor customer for in Europe, and Starlab and VAST for their confidence to our development and to our product. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pierre. Now we have Annamaria Piras, who is going to talk to us about the programs at Thales Space.
Hello? Yes. Okay, so we are the second one that are planning to develop the LEO cargo return vehicle and bring it to the station first. Well, the first challenge is we are for sure consolidated old company, but on the other side, we are very open, also thanks to the different collaboration and the fact that we started to have collaboration in commercial environment since several years. Actually, I would say since 2015, we changed completely our mindset in trying to go more towards a commercial environment, also for the environment that is associated to habitable. We cannot say that the program is not a challenging one. We are facing lots of challenges, and surely the first one is associated to the schedule. We know the need of the LEO cargo, both for the station, its lifetime is limited, and we need to arrive on time, or at least to be as near as possible. We have constraints because this project is challenging. We want to be autonomous, as it has been said today, in terms of Europe. So we need on one side to take into consideration all the constraints that are coming from that. We need to take in consideration the constraints that are coming from the need of the commercial station, of the CLD programs. And we also have to have a focus that is more oriented long-term. We don't want to be autonomous only on what concerns the cargo, but in the future we want to go and have the possibility to evolve towards the human transport to the commercial station. So these are the main challenges that we are focusing, and we are focusing to start this demo mission already taking into consideration these constraints. Of course, considering some, let me say, reduction or some limited objective for this demonstration, but being ready to go back to an immediate service. We know that the station and the commercial station are ending and starting approximately at the same time. So we want that our demo mission is going to be reconfigurable and immediately getting ready for the cargo in a very short time. Well, I think we have some challenges on the technical side, and for this perspective, likely all the experience that we have done up to now for the space station, being involved basically in all half of the space station, but especially in all the typology of programs and of products, is something that it gives us a big plus and give us some confidence of having all the technologies that are necessary. We have been extensively involved in all the elements that are providing logistics supports. And starting from the more institutional one, going to the more associated to the logistics. Thanks, for example, to our collaboration with Northrop Grumman, we are not only seeing how to refurbish the station with the several elements. We started producing them in 5 years. We are now delivering in 2. In less than 2 years, and we are getting ready to something that is even more aggressive, viewing the future and the evolution of the scenario. Also, for what concerns the new request for this cargo LEO is the end-to-end service, the capability not just to build an element, but to build the end-to-end service that is including the ground service, that is including the service to get ready with the cargo physical and analytical integration, all the activities that are necessary to support the operation. And on this, of course, we have our company, Altec, that is already following some of these activity. It followed for the space station, it followed for some commercial activity, is followed for IXV, so we have some experience. Of course, which are the major difference that we did not exploit in this experience? Well, are both basically associated to the berthing and docking to the station that was not part of our responsibility in the previous business, and of course the return portion. These are the 2 points and pillars that needs to have a specific attention in the demo mission from our perspective. Despite also for the return, we do have some experience not in LEO that is associated to the IXV mission, and currently talking about a free flyer, let me say, opportunities. We have an important role in Space Rider that is providing already and enabling several technologies that can be at some extent reused. We are also interested in getting the market. And to get the market, it's very important to have an end-to-end service that is provided, of course, the cargo transfer to any station, the return, but it's also important to take into consideration which are the needs of the users and which are the opportunities that the commercial stations are offering. And in these aspects, we are including in this, let me say, estimation, everything that is associated also to the needs of the commercial station. And also on this side, we are pretty well positioned thanks to the different collaboration that we had, both with Axiom for the element that we are providing for them, and potential additional collaboration with Axiom for the use of the station. The collaboration with Northrop Grumman, of course, that is continuing, and the dialogue with other CLD providers that are, of course, very important. Well, this is something that we plan to offer in order to capture the market that is not the most common one. I think it's very clear to everybody that the main market is the US, with a contribution of Europe and the typical member state, the big states that were already on the station. We need, of course, to extend the market. And in order to extend the market, I think it's very important to be able to offer an end-to-end service that means to offer the capability to make space-qualified the components, to take care of everything, including the possibility to accommodate the element on orbit and providing them services like a glove box, or like providing them immediately a service like different typology of cold capabilities, so that actually the access is granted also for smaller payload, and as it has been just said, to make it much quicker, the process time from the time a payload an industry is willing to manifest the element to the time that we can really fly the component. And we want to be in less than 1 year, not 10 years as it has been said. What you see there is also an example of our capsule. Is a mock-up, is a structural mock-up, is not a representative of the current exact shape, but it is important because it allows us to validate our, let me say, welding technologies for this typology of products that is slightly different from the previous that are in our background. Well, which are the challenges? I think I already addressed the schedule one. It's very ambitious, and that requires, for sure, innovative solution and a kind of lean approach to the activities. We mentioned also the technologies challenges, especially for the re-entry capability. So in this sense, the additional, let me say, free mission, not attaching to the station, but the return is of course something that is focusing on these validation. We know that the upload and download capabilities is important, is essential to grant the proper utilization of the station. On the other side, we have also constraints that are coming from the launcher, that are coming from the mission, and is a balance between several factors. So in addition to this aspect of maximizing, of course, the capability, it's from our market investigation, it's important, of course, to make the business plan favorable and extensive reusability of the element. We have experience that are coming, of course, from the SpaceX on that. We have experience also on previous element in which we were able to extend relevantly the reusability of the system. But also what it came out from our collaboration with a commercial station is that going from an institutional market to a more, let me say, commercial market, an important need is the frequency of the resupply. If we open the space to commercialization, it's not just question of providing a big amount of mass, it's question of being able to bring back the process sample in a reasonable time so that there can be really an industrial approach. So in this sense, we want to be able to maximize the frequency of flight, and that means to minimize the turnaround time for these cargo LEO elements. Well, of course, the price is driving, but all the above factors that I just mentioned are supporting the reduction of price and finding a price that can grant the competitiveness. And probably also the offer of an end-to-end service is something that is allowing to improve this aspect. What we face as additional challenge that is really a new one for us, so it's not technical at all, is the regulatory frame for the service. So what we are still working on it is the legal aspect associated of being responsible of an end-to-end service and the insurance portion about that. And for that, we are extensively talking with the agency to, let me say, to have this aspect. These are the challenges, but we have a full commitment from our side. And where we are, just to conclude, well, we are at the point in which we are facing the requirement consolidated review and preliminary design. Our objective is, of course, to get at the point in which we have all the enabling technologies for the demo mission arriving at the TRL-6, providing all the features that are necessary for that. And of course, we are very, very conscious of the importance of being ready in the right time, and that's the rationale why we are also identifying and implementing alternate solutions to mitigate possible risk, so that despite one European technology may not be successful, we will anyhow be able to achieve the objective of a cargo mission in a reasonable time frame. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Rick, finally, it's your turn.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Hey, so I'm here to talk about the Cygnus spacecraft. Green means go. Okay, back up. There's a delay. Yeah, you probably haven't heard. If you've ever sent anything to the International Space Station, you've heard about the Cygnus spacecraft. It's on its 21st mission right now. It's already delivered over, I don't know, it's 50 or 60,000 kilograms of cargo to the space station. Somebody asked about getting a payload up there when, well, we've been doing it for 10 years. So in 2008, the COTS program was kicked off, and then Orbital Sciences delivered its first mission to the space station with the Cygnus spacecraft in 2013, the demo mission. And then the other thing that was impressive that they did was 3 months later, they sent the second mission up, and I was lucky enough to be there for the first operational Cygnus spacecraft when I was on space station. So we've been around for a long time. The Cygnus spacecraft has been around for a long time, and our interest in transitioning from the ISS to the commercial space stations, obviously, it's very important to us. It's not useful to have a cargo delivery vehicle if there's no place to deliver. So we continue to expand what the Cygnus spacecraft can do. We take payloads, for example. We have science facilities at the base of the launch sites where we take the science payloads from the scientists at L-24 hours take it from their hands, we put it on board the spacecraft and deliver it, and it's in the hands of the astronauts about 2 or 3 days later. So it's a well-defined service that we've been doing for many years now. The Cygnus is able to carry away large external payloads for disposal. It's not currently delivering them to orbit, but that's something we're looking at. You know, we talked about a lot of questions about what the market's going to be. Will there be a market for more cargo deliveries to these commercial space stations? We'll find out. The Cygnus reboosts the ISS. This is an actual picture of the Cygnus vehicle reboosting the ISS. The only other vehicle since the space shuttle, it was the first U.S. vehicle to do it since the space shuttle. And then I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, guys. I know we want to get to the Q&A part. You know, what we've been doing over the years with Cygnus is we've been growing it in capability. In 2013, you could see it was a 2-barrel module, the pressurized cargo module by Annamaria and her team. In 2015, we went to 3 barrels, and in 2025, it's actually grown to a 4th barrel. So we have one more mission where we will launch with the 3-barrel configuration sometime first half of next year, but the second half of next year will actually be a 4-barrel where we're delivering 5,000 kilograms to the International Space Station. And that's in preparation for a commercial space station. We've been trying to grow the capabilities so that we could support what the commercial space station, what we think they need. And we're working with all the commercial space station potential providers to better understand that. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Oh, I do love it when a presentation comes in early. It gives us more time for Q&A. I've seen, and thank you so much, we've got some wonderful questions coming in online. I would like to invite the people who've asked the questions online to perhaps put their hands up in the audience and ask them directly if you would prefer that, because it's nicer to get the audience interaction. So anybody who's put a question on Mentimeter, would you be able to ask that directly to us? Absolute silence in the room. Oh my goodness. Okay, then I will have to go to Mentimeter. Right then. So we're going to start with one that came in before, but I'll keep my eyes open and so the people with the microphones in the room. Given the limited cadence of crewed Dragon missions so far, do you think you may have restrictions on crewed access to your stations before other vehicles come online by around 2030? You're smiling.
To the stations or the logistic providers? Yeah.
Well, I think it's both ways.
Okay.
To the station, the schedule to the access to the ISS before 2030 is made by NASA. So they will open the call for the next 2 PAM missions, and we don't know if they will be the last ones. Probably yes, because of the timing of they need to do some tests for the decommissioning also. So I think that the station will be very busy in last years. But so yeah, this is not on us. On the station, we are sure that even also thanks to new providers, like we've been heard about, we've been listening to this Inspiration company. We have an agreement, we have a deal with this company and also with others in the world. We think that the access to space will be much easier in the future. And also Starship for sure will, all of what we are saying now will really change with Starship in terms of costs, in terms of capability. So no, honestly, we don't see a limitation in the future.
And we plan to build to the ISS standard to be compatible with any visiting vehicle that comes online. I think competition is very important. The number of providers that are out from different locations, from US, from Europe, and maybe others, is very important, especially as we look at potential bartering for services with ESA and other agencies. So we hope the docking standard and the integration standard holds, and we could be welcoming of any visiting vehicle, cargo and crew alike.
Same.
Nothing like conciseness. Any other questions from the floor? Yes, a question right in the center there at the back. And while the microphone's getting to you, I'll just jump into another question here. Oh gosh, you're popular, Manlio. Has Axiom's space suit been already presented in Milan, or is this still to come? Oh, Milan what? Milan Fashion Week, Milan Space?
Yeah, we presented it during the Astronautical International Congress in Milano. It was a big event, and that's what actually was the real one. I mean, it was not just a mock-up. So we've been showing a real piece of hardware, and yeah.
Coming to you in a catwalk soon.
Strauss Space Applications Satellite Applications Catapult. We keep changing our name. Identity crisis there, clearly. We talk endlessly about what the US is doing, and it's important. We talk what Europe's doing. We talk extensively about what SpaceX is doing and what Starship is doing. What is the consequence, just let's say hypothetically, that Starship isn't perhaps operationally ready by 2030? What are the alternatives? So let's say there's not only perhaps not an operationally ready Starship, but SpaceX also say, you know what, we're not going to offer Starship to Europe. What are we going to do now? Probably everybody has a comment on that. In particular, VAST, I think, will be a very interesting comment, and perhaps Axiom. Thank you.
Right, well, I don't want it to become a VAST and Axiom show. However, okay, let's start with those comments, and then the others can... Manfred. Yes, Manfred.
He has a
yes.
division. Yeah.
Yes, you should go first.
So for Starlab, I can disclose, but not more, that Starlab has not one business case, but 4.
So plans B, C, and D.
That's the first thing. The second thing is we are very confident that they will be ready. Because there will be 2 versions, as the insiders know, for Starship. There's a reusable and a non-reusable version. And we will use, of course, the non-reusable because we don't have to cut back. We want to stay up. And so the capacity for Starship will be much better for us, for our needs, for the station. There will be enough volume, there will be enough mass upload. And they are very mature already now, so we are very confident. But we have also a plan B, but I cannot talk on that.
Oh, yeah.
We start our business model in 2016, where Starship was not even on the media. So obviously we are ready to fly anyway, to be very concise.
Didier?
Yeah, I mean, the question should be even a little bit further. We have, as usual, a very Western discussion here. Nobody talks ever about China. Fine, they have their own station. They have their own station. They will double the capacity. They will have their own ways to do things, commercial as well. Inviting, of course, a crew from all over the world, whoever wants to participate for political reasons. But the other thing is India. I mean, we don't have it in the picture. Well, we do have it in the picture, I can tell you, but I don't hear about it. They are committed to have their first element in orbit in 28 and a full-fledged station in 35. They will go that way. Also, we should factor this in as another capability, and they have officially said they want to be interoperable for the Gaganyaan crew vehicle with any future option. So I think we have to broaden a little bit the discussion and not to be, as usual, very centric, what we best know.
Yeah, I echo the comments with the global community, of course. But going back to the Starship question, and I didn't get a chance to really highlight it in our Haven 2 architecture, but we specifically are designing the architecture to be available for Starship when it is ready. That said, it involves an architecture of module design that starts out as 5 meter and then expands to 7 meter when the launch capability is ready. And that's configurable within the mission's architecture. So we know we want to be ready for Starship or other Super Heavy launchers, but we're not dependent on it on any given timeline.
Can I just add something? What was just said about the bigger community, India, for example. I named them because India is going to fly in our next mission next year. So one of the astronauts is an Indian astronaut, and obviously the deal among us is bigger than just this flight. We have a comprehensive agreement with ISRO, so we are working with them, and I think that this community understands very well the huge potentiality of having an Indian astronaut flying on a US private mission. So this is something that commercial space is really changing the geopolitics of space. And I think this, all of us will have benefit from it, because I mean, apart from China, there is a very specific case that we should look at, but maybe not when we talk about commercial space, because it's not really in cooperation with us. But India is surely part of this new adventure, and we are taking most of the concretenesses about that.
Pierre.
Yeah, on the extraction of the company, we take care on the fact that it will be compatible with all launchers. Existing launchers, of course, American launchers, European launchers at first, European launchers, American launchers, and also Indian launchers, because we considered as also Indian market. Indian could be also a market for cargo and for future, and we are open to cooperation, as you mentioned, Didier. So yes, we take care to be wider as possible for all the market.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. India is one portion that we are looking for as well, but also when we talk about commercial, we need to have different scenario cases. So we cannot just base on one option.
Thank you. Other questions from the floor? Well, while people are thinking, I'll go to Mentimeter because you have sent in some questions here. So one question here, how many different orbiting stations are you envisaging orbiting in LEO in the near future? Is the market wide enough?
It depends a little bit on the architecture of these stations, at least from the point of view of Starlab. Maybe it's similar to VAST at least. We don't intend to do a multi-mission business park in one infrastructure. We learned from the ISS that this will end up in compromises and nothing will work really good. So we are more modular in our planning. And the first station will be as I outlined. The second station maybe has we plan a fleet, a small fleet of stations. Will be a complete different application, maybe in the military area. We don't know. We never know. The third could be, again, a completely industrial laboratory run by industrial astronauts, by industry. All that is imaginable. So it depends a little bit on the architecture of the stations. And last but not least, maybe, in this fleet of Starlab, we plan also a complete unmanned station.
Did
you?
Yeah, there is one additional element. We talk about the moon tomorrow, but it has obviously a very strong impact in the discussion of today, because in preparing, for example, the ministerial conference of next year, we in ESA have to make an arbitration and propose to the member states a kind of, what do we do in LEO, what do we do on the moon, what do we do on Mars? We have to have a good balance between the programs. Very trendy, of course, lunar activities, including the prospect of having Europeans walking on the moon. So we will put an emphasis on the moon. So we have to arbitrate between the budgets at the end of the day that we are foreseeing for LEO and the moon, and obviously not forgetting Mars. NASA has exactly the same dilemma, so to say, on where are the boundaries between doing as much as possible in LEO, but not too much to preserve their capacity and budget for the Artemis program. Coming back to China, they have an issue there to be, again, the first one to walk on the moon. So it's not just, it's not just one pot of money. It is a balance between strategies and opportunities and international collaboration, like we just talked about about India. So this is also to be taken into account, because at the end of the day, these strategic balances and choices will impact for a long time what we will be doing in LEO and essentially post ISS. So it's up to the community here also to make the case that where is the balance, where is the ratio between all three destinations? And if we don't have a good case, so to say, we're institutionally driven, so we will do the strategy that is the best suited for our member states. And therefore, we have to make an assessment very quickly. At ESA, I just tell you, we have to finalize the program proposal for the ministerial in May, council decision in June, and then it's difficult to change anything. So in the next 3 months, we have to make our choices in the ratio between all the 3 destinations.
Well, we look forward to seeing what the plans will be in 3 months' time. You'll have a lovely Christmas to come, I'm sure. Annamaria.
Yeah, I think linked to what it has just been said, I think in this time frame we are not ready at industrial level to say that at the budget level, considering the budget, that there will be more than 2 stations, at least if we talk about an immediate timing after the International Space Station. That doesn't mean that this is going to be the scenario longer term. I think the market is not yet ready. We are talking about extending the market to India, to other countries that has also in Europe has less relevance right now than the current more involved, but this needs time, and we need to be able to demonstrate that in LEO you can do really industrialization. Up to the time we get to this point, I don't think there will be space for more than 2 commercial stations, and probably it's important to have a station that can grow, but probably the core system should be a small one, at least at the beginning.
If I can add something to this very specific topic, one of the big mistakes that everybody does now is considering the commercial space something that is 100% related to human presence in space. And I don't think that the market is giving us this feedback. The feedback that we are getting, at least at Axiom, is that services and applications are the most required thing. So that's why our first 3 modules will be orbital data center, pharmaceutical and medical applications, and semiconductors, science and research and production. Because what we have experienced is that the main interest is coming from industries. The main interest is coming from a very big corporation that wants to exploit the capabilities in space to produce goods that are usable on Earth. So this is another part of the business model that this market is creating, and that's why we see the parallel with the internet in the 80s, when nobody really knew what it was going to become, but a few entities invested billions to build the infrastructure where all of us are making money now. So I think that this is a parallel that we should look at. Now there are a few entities that are investing very hard to build the infrastructure, and the market will drive these investments to create the enterprise value I was talking at the very beginning. So that's what we are looking at, and that's why our partners, I can say, are 50-50 between countries and enterprises. And that's what makes a big difference with the ISS, where 99% of budget was coming from the country's budget.
But I could highlight the exploration part again. The LEO destination, LEO isn't as a destination as much as possible, but it's really becomes a test platform for the Artemis program, for a potential Mars exploration architecture. The LEO destination provides the flight rate, an affordable flight rate, and a test capability for long-term ECLSS capabilities that don't require a lot of resupply. That's a very important part for a LEO station to demonstrate as a test platform, and there may be enough room for the 2 destinations or more from this community here.
I think actually, Manlio, you answered at least part of a question that's come in here, which is, I believe it's important to cultivate demand from customers in existing non-space industries for low Earth orbit services. Which fields do you think hold the most promise? You've mentioned some already.
I mean, those 3.
But I wanted to kind of extend the question. You've obviously mentioned those 3 that have been mentioned repeatedly this morning. What others do you think could be targeted who are not yet players in the field?
There are a lot, really. Again, it's like internet in the 80s. We still don't know maybe which other industries are. But to give you a couple of examples, very concrete, who in this room would have thought about Prada partnership with us? You know, textile. Or even the leisures part of the story. You know, I can tell you that even in Italy, very famous food and producers are interested in space right now, because there will be, maybe not in 10 years, but there will be a day where the human presence in space will be so consistent that we will need our own products even in space. So I think there is room for a wider concept of needs.
I can confirm that one of our strategic partners, not a risk-sharing partner, but a strategic partner, is Hilton Hotels. And
I noticed that.
This is not only because they are doing a hotel chain. It is to create food concepts and then to use food concepts coming from space necessities for terrestrial applications. And this is a very interesting area. Next one may be more exotic, and you can laugh at that, but I had the chance with our US partners to look at that in Los Angeles, is filming in space. So we know that, and I could see it in the studios, Netflix, Amazon Prime, they are developing complete new formats where parts of this series are filmed really live in space. And this is also one of the purposes of bigger diameters, because in an environment like ISS or the core modules of Axiom, it's small. No? It's difficult to do this there. So these are two examples maybe for other areas.
And I agree also from our analysis, these are the three areas. That's also why I mentioned that there is a request from the preliminary investigation of a more frequent let me say, resupply and return. And because if we talk about space pharma or we talk about material growth, there is an interest of some industry to have a more frequent, but that's also where the price is becoming a driver. I think for the data, that's something that is obviously one of the big market and everybody is talking about that, but this is something that I believe in the future may decrease a little bit because the technology also on ground are changing a lot. So that is going to be an area where the trade between, let me say, space accommodation with respect to ground accommodation may play a role. Right now is surely a big market. I think in 10 years from now is something that is decreasing. A small part that I think has some value to introduce is anyway some, even if smaller, technology enablers that can be experimented in LEO for a future exploration mission. This is something that is, of course, small, but it's an important market that I want to add.
Pierre.
Yes, what I can say, of course, it's a little example, but on Mission Possible, we have our 300 kilograms of payloads. We are covering a wide spectrum of use case, as mentioned, as space demo, space lab for pharmacology, for food. We are also covering space emotion. I could cover product in some type of companies. And we have also some missions for our space agencies, for CNES, ESA, and DLR. So we are covering all these missions, and we see that also what is important for the customers is the return, to get back their experiments, to have a possibility to recover those experiments after the free flying. That's something which is perhaps a bit surprising.
Thank you. We've got 5 minutes, well, 4.5 minutes left. Any other questions from the room? Yes.
Yes, question. I think Mr. Didier Schmitt's statement, or what he mentioned earlier about being Western-centric and sort of considering opening up the engagement with India, sort of got me thinking about one thing. Like, I'm part Japanese, and despite my accent, and I think there's several participants from Japan in this event today. And I think one question that sort of popped into my mind is that how does, or can Japan sort of somehow fit in to this picture? Not as like an investment provider or a business or market development partner, just like how Mitsubishi is involved in Voyager, or Mitsui with Axiom, and Kanematsu with Sierra, but as a sort of provider of technical capabilities and know-hows, like the launch provision, launch capacity provider, HTVX cargo provider, or just general know-how in the human spaceflight through their experience in the ISS. And just wondered if any of the commercial station companies have any comment on that subject.
Okay, maybe I open this discussion. Talking on Starlab, We have, as a partner, not the traditional legacy industry space agency as a partner. It's a trade house. It's Mitsubishi Corporation. And the area that is together with us is the area for urban development and aviation and space. And so they want to bring the different areas of business together and develop them through that and create added value. This is the main purpose for them. And then comes other parts of space industry, aviation industry, and others to grow. And so JAXA, I attended to this meeting. They chose Mitsubishi Corporation as their partner to do that, to enable that.
We have only one office outside US, and it's in Japan. We have our astronaut security chief officer is a very known Japanese astronaut, Koichi Wakata, and is based in Tokyo together with another Axiom employee working there to integrate the Japanese capabilities into the Axiom needs. So yeah, the answer is absolutely yes, and Japan is a big champion in space, so everybody, I think, will have to look at Japan to enlarge their capabilities.
And JAXA is also kind of on the forefront here of working with the potential CLD providers with their fund to look at what the future of a new Kibo module looks like, and if that incorporates the HTVX both as a cargo carrier or some of the technologies. So we're really looking at their heritage on the ISS, which is pretty obvious, and then what capabilities Japanese companies can bring to a commercial provider, and VAS is equally as interested as well in working with them. So we definitely want to thank JAXA for being there and having a funded study early on, even pre-phase 2 selection, as they're working with many providers in the US.
Thank you. I know we have another question from the floor. Since I haven't heard your voice so much, I have a question here directly to you. What is Northrop planning to do in the CLD space? Will Cygnus be evolved to become a relevant cargo delivery vehicle for CLDs?
Yes, absolutely. So we're working with all the potential providers to try to figure out three different areas of what we're doing with Cygnus. One is we want to continue to provide reliable cargo services. And what that means, on-time cargo delivery is going to be even more important for the commercial providers than it is for ISS, because ISS has more options. Number two, we're trying to enhance the Cygnus to bring revenue to the commercial space stations. Do we need to do more external payload, more internal payloads, more volume, more power? What do they need to bring revenue to their space stations? And then three is really, what can Cygnus do for you? It's an operational vehicle with 10 years of heritage. What can it do for the space station providers to take on some of the technical capabilities that you're looking for? Space station wasn't delivered in one day, fully compatible, fully ready to go. So visiting vehicles kind of supported it. So what can a visiting vehicle do to support your new commercial space station? And that's what we're doing, and we're going to plan on working with all the providers in that way.
And do you have any other comments on the previous question?
The only thing I could say, yeah, great comments. The only thing I could say is the astronauts' time is $135,000 an hour, but the astronauts only make $2 to $3 a day when they're on orbit. So somebody needs to explain that difference somewhere along the way.
Well, on that merry note, I know that we've got further questions from the floor, and we've got some on Mentimeter as well, which perhaps you can jump into, and also go into and answer through Mentimeter, so we can keep the conversation alive there. But I definitely don't want to condense the lunch break, because it's a very important opportunity for you to talk to all of our panelists and to each other. So please thank our panelists. And I'll see you back in the room. We'll start in exactly 58 minutes' time, so 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.